Ahoy there! How's everyone doing? This is Captain Pete, aka Pistol Pete. I am the founder of the Rising Tide Investments Discord. You can also find me on X at Pistol Pete Trades. I've received some feedback, so I'm going to make some changes to how I do these videos. I am now going to break them. You're still going to be able to see my thought process, but I'm now going to break them into chapters. This will hopefully make it easier for you to find what you're looking for, especially if you have the attention span of a gnat. So the way that these chapters are going to be broken up, I'm first going to look at futures, then I'm going to look at indexes and ETFs, then big tech, chips, small caps, and then finally I'll end on crypto stocks / altcoins. If you like what you see, please like, subscribe, and comment on my videos. Please let me know what you would like to see. Let me know if there's any tickers you would like to see, if you have any requests. Also, the link to the Discord is in the bio. Just a reminder that nothing I say is financial advice. You're expected to make your own decisions. Also, there are no guarantees with technical analysis, but being able to analyze a chart allows you to see the possibilities. All right, are we all set? Ready to go? All right, let's jump right in. All right, everyone. So this is the first chapter where I am going to review futures. If you're not interested in trading futures, feel free to skip ahead or make it to the next video. Like I mentioned, I'm either going to break these up to chapters or separate videos, or maybe I'll do both. The reason why I like to analyze futures is, number one, you almost get pretty much continuous price action. It's a little bit easier for me to create a bias going into the week or going into the next day. I also trade futures occasionally. So I just want to make sure that I could tailor this to everyone depending on what you're interested in. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to jump right into the ES chart, right? All right. So ES 3-month, we're going to start clean. What you could see here is that right off the bat on the 3-month, we have a 3-month fair value gap, right? So these wicks don't touch. So that's just something we want to be mindful of. And I like to start on the larger time frames and then make my way down. Okay. 3-month fair value gap. And then what we could see is we have a rejection here. Let's see if we go to the monthly, what that rejection ended up being from a fib level. So we could draw fibs. Well, before we even jump into the fibs, what we could see on the monthly as well is we have a breaker here that we came down, bounced off of. And then we have this 3-month fair value gap to be mindful of. All right, let's look at the weekly. See if the weekly tells us anything. Same thing. So we bounced off of this breaker, didn't quite make it down to the 3-month fair value gap. And sorry, let me just want to make sure there's no imbalances that I'm missing on the weekly. Yep. Okay, looks good, looks good. What you can see here is there was this weekly fair value gap that we bounced off of, and that launched us up here. Let's go to the daily. All right, so now that we're at the daily, what we could see is we had this daily fair value gap here that we ended up rejecting, and we're coming back up to test. Let's draw some fibs. So fib retracement. We haven't yet made our way up to the discount range. And what you could see so far is we're making higher lows. So right now, not looking bullish just yet. Bias most likely is going to be bearish, but that doesn't mean there won't be more upside early next week. So I would expect a push up into this discount range. Would even expect maybe a push up into this golden pocket. And then I want to see how we react in this golden pocket, which is also the discount range of this daily fair value gap, to see if we put in another lower high before coming down, taking out more liquidity. You have, let's just draw some levels here. We have the sell side level here, which was put in on Friday, December 20th. And then you have sell side here, which is just right at that 3-month fair value gap. Right? And this is actually, I would say, relative equal lows, right? So if you've watched any of my videos, I always like to say that relative equal highs or relative equal lows tend to act like magnets. Don't have to make it all the way there, but it's just something to be mindful of. So, and then let me hide this for a sec. Let's look to see what the fibs are telling us, right? So, and when I say fibs, I mean fib extensions now. So this has the 1.618 there. Let me just see. Nah, I'm not like that. How did I draw? Forget how I drew it earlier, where I got a very specific rejection. It might have been not on the March contracts. Anyways, sorry about that. Let's go back down to the daily. And let's even go to the hourly now. So hourly, what you could see on the hourly is we had these buy side levels and also relative equal highs that we're now rejecting at. And so, and here, before I even do that, we drill in. You can see that there's an hourly fair value gap right here, right? So, when you're charting, when you're trading, what you have to think about is why the market is moving. It either generates liquidity, it hunts liquidity, it goes back to equilibrium, or it searches for inefficiencies. And so what you can see here on the hourly, right, is it generated the sell side, swept that sell side, came up, and now we took out these relative equal highs, these buy side levels. There obviously is this daily fair value gap, which is an inefficiency above, but it has already been tested and rejected. So does it make sense now to start heading back down towards these other sell side levels? Maybe, but like I said, we're not yet in the discount range. Institutions like to try to get this into the discount range. Right now, we're in the premium range of this bearish price action. And so let's just look short term what we can expect. And so that is interesting, right? So the 236 brings us down to this hourly fair value gap. So could see something like this, which brings us back down into the breaker as well. Could push lower, could push to this 382, but I don't think we will just yet. What I also would like to do, so reminder, actually, where do we think we're trying to head? Think we're trying to head back to the discount range, which for bears would be above this 0.5. So I think small retracement to that hourly fair value gap and back to this breaker before we push up again. Even if we, what else was I going to look at? Like if we were to draw trend lines, right? So that brings us kind of, yeah, it depends on, well, I guess by the time we open for New York, yeah. So not a big trend line guy, but just something to pay attention to. Also, if there's something that we should look at, I like to look at ES and NQ side by side. What you get to see actually on the weekly is that NQ made, so before we even do that, let me just, so SMT divergences could either be bearish or bullish. What you could see on the weekly, I pointed this out in other videos, is that from Monday, December 2nd, that week, you get to see there was a divergence. ES was not making new highs while NQ was. So right off the bat, that was a bearish divergence, something that we should have been mindful of going into the past few weeks. And And then now what you can see on the weekly is that ES failed to make a new low and sweep the sell side level, while NQ did. So that is a bullish divergence. Doesn't have to play out right away, but just something to be mindful of. So I would like to flip bullish, but I wouldn't be bullish until we are over certain level. I'd like us to ideally make our way. So you can see we have this bearish fair value gap. So what we would ideally do is take out these buy side levels up here and even here, come up, flip this into an inverse fair value gap. And then that's when I would turn bullish and look for new all-time highs. But as of right now, I'm bullish short term, but still being wary of the liquidity that is lower. All right, what else? So then same thing on NQ, March. Let's look 3 month. All right, so interesting thing is 3 month does not have a fair value gap. Let's look at the monthly. Neither does the monthly. Let's go to the weekly. So you had this breaker here. Weekly had this fair value gap that got ran through. I'm like, it's too quiet. I need some music. All right. Like we pointed out, weekly swept this liquidity down here. Then let's see. I was trying to see if these fib extensions tell any sort of story. Okay, so we have the golden pocket extension up there. All right, so same thing. Let's see. Let's drill down a little bit further. So what you can see actually is that, remember, one of the reasons why the market moves is to generate liquidity. On this push down, we're generating these buy side levels. And we have sell side here. What you could also see is, forgot to point this out on ES, but we also bounced right at the golden pocket, which could be bullish. Daily has fair value gap up here, which similar to ES, I would like us to take this bearish daily fair value gap, flip it, and then that's when I can become mega bull again. All right, so then let's draw some fibs from this top here to the local bottom. All right, so golden pocket. So we actually, unlike ES, NQ made it back into the discount range, and the golden pocket has us fall short of this daily fair value gap. So what I think is going to happen is that I think we either make it up to the 707 or the 786, somewhere in this region, somewhere in this 50% mark of this daily fair value gap, which you can see the dotted lines, to put in another lower high. Again, I'm not going to be fully bullish until we take out this daily fair value gap. Ideally, we get a daily candle close above it, retest it, and then we could start heading towards this buy side level and all-time high buy side level. Shorter term, let me look at the 4 hour. So 4 hours putting in a fair value gap there. We had these buy side levels. Didn't quite make it to this one. So would be interesting to see if right now we're rejecting the 0.5. See if at open we can take out that buy side level. If not, so anyhow, I like how if we do make up to the golden pocket, how this lines up. But as of right now, where we stand, could make it down here. I think we can, we maybe come down to, so you also have this bearish. Right, so now maybe we're flipping this. We'll say actually it's a inverse fair value gap for now. Test it and then take out this other buy side level. You also have buy side up here on the hourly, which would bring us into that 707 region. So that's where I believe we're heading. before maybe more downside. Like I said, you can see we generated all this buy side on this push down that just going to act like fuel and allow us to come up here at least to this daily fair value gap. So all right, so that is all I wanted to look at from a future standpoint. So just to quickly recap, short term leaning bullish. I still think ES still has room to make it up into the discount range above the 0.5. NQ made it to the 0.5, but the daily fair value gap's higher. I think with all that buy side up there, I think we make our way up to that daily fair value gap, either the 707 or the 786, before possible downside. And if you stay tuned and watch how I analyze SPY, SPX, etc., you could see why I'm still leaning more bearish for now. All right, so now chapter 2, right? So chapter 2 will bring us to indexes and ETFs. So let's start off with SPY. So SPY, few things. Let's okay. All right, so let me just hide these paths for now. Let me just pretty much hide everything. But we could see, if we jump to the 6-month chart. So, the funny thing is I started recording a video yesterday, ran out of time. I had things to do. And then, I decided I got some feedback. So I decided to change how I do these videos, but I started on the 12-month charts on a lot of these just because we're in a new year, just kind of wanted to see how the year ended, and how this year's starting. So I started on the larger time frames and started working my way down. For this video, I don't want to make it like insanely long. So start off on the 6-month year, just to kind of show you we have this fair value gap. We have a potential breaker here. And if we were just to assume that the top is in, let's just see what this brings us to. All right, so something to be mindful of is the discount range of this move would bring us down to like 461. No, I don't think that happens yet. But just something to be mindful of. You can also see we've been rising on declining volume. All right, so, but that we'll worry about that later. Now let's go to the 3-month. Same thing. 3-month. See, we touched down to the 6-month and then took off. And then we now have a 3-month fair value gap here, which I'm sure somewhere in this object tree. Let's see. All right, so we have an imbalance there, breaker up there. So let's start bringing back these rectangles. Interesting if I didn't mark that. Okay, so now let's mark that. We have a 3-month fair value gap here, which brings us to like 565-ish region. And then let's go monthly. Oh, and then also something to just be aware of is that we technically have this imbalance forming on the 3-month. And obviously on the 3-month. So just something to watch out for as well, which is like 589-ish, 586. So, all right, monthly looks like it could be flagging, which would be bullish. The one thing to call out though is that we do have this election gap that we're slowly starting to close and bounce off of, but just something to be mindful of. As if you watched my futures part of the video, you saw that I was mentioning that there's still sell side liquidity we can grab down below, which would be here and here. We grabbed this liquidity, we grabbed this liquidity, so that looks good. And it's just a matter of was that enough to keep pushing us higher to test maybe all-time highs? What you could see here is we bounced off of the golden pocket. We are still putting in a series of higher lows, so I would like to see us make a higher high here and take out this buy side level that's right here for me to flip bullish. Okay. You can also see we bounce off of this breaker. So what you can also see is that I believe this is a 4-hour gap. Yeah, there's a 4-hour gap down here. Just need to be mindful of that. And then we have some imbalances above. So if we were to draw fibs, so you can see SPY made it back into the discount range if you're a bear. Yeah. And but let's see, I would like to see us make it at least to the golden pocket. Let me go to smaller time frames. SPY saw some great moves on Friday. That's the other thing that I want to call out is that there are a lot of squeezy stocks on Friday. SPY, the ETFs indexes looked great. It's easy to get caught up in that euphoria, and I encourage my Discord to just kind of take a step back, wait until next week to see if there are any setups that we really like, and then we can jump. I don't want us jumping in, being a part of that FOMO and euphoria. I want to be smart and make sure that we have really great entries. But the Discord did do very well on Friday, which I'm very proud of a lot of the members. All right, so we have this golden pocket at the top of this imbalance. We have on the hourly, we have buy side here. So we could continue. We took out these buy side levels here. We could continue up, but shorter term, and actually I believe I have these paths already in place of what I believe could happen. So what I was thinking is we either gap up Monday and head towards this buy side level, or we see a retracement, tease this gap around the 0.382 and then bounce off of it. Or we completely fill the gap, bounce off of this local golden pocket, which is also the breaker, similar to what I mapped out on ES. And then we start heading towards that buy side level and possibly put in a higher low on the larger time frames. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you on SPY. Let's look at SPX is going to be pretty much the same. Don't need to spend much time on this, just so you get to kind of see the levels. Again, we made it to the discount range. We do have this imbalance up here with the daily buy side up in this 60-50 region. Shorter term, let's see. Same thing, we have this 4-hour gap. Really have this buy side level up here. So that's around 59.79. We have this imbalance, and you could also see that this is a fair value gap as well. So shorter term, if we don't get that gap up on Monday, let's see what we could look for. What makes sense, right? So you lock this, but then let me also hide it. Yeah, so I mean, 58.75 makes a lot of sense. It's a golden pocket. You would get pretty much that gap fill. It's an order block. Even the 707, 58.64. So let's see how we open Monday. Could see something. And obviously, if we make it down to the golden pocket on SPX, then we would also most likely on SPY and futures, etc. So might need a little bit more juice before we start taking out this buy side level and this imbalance and making our way up here. So all right, QQQ real quick. So let me just, same thing, let's just hide a lot of this stuff. Actually, I'm gonna just leave it. Let's look at the weekly, or let's look at the daily actually. All right, so daily, same thing. We're putting in these these lower highs, just something we need to be mindful of. We did sweep this sell side liquidity here. We do have more sell side here, and then all the way down here, and then obviously down here. So just things that we need to be mindful of, right? And then on the hourly, we have these, looks like, yeah. So what I think happens here is that before we make it back down, possibly make it back down to this region, I think we make it up to the discount range of this recent move, which there's buy side here, right? Which would allow us to put in that lower high, reject around this one extension of this recent move. So this blue path here is more of like the larger time frame path, and then these red paths are more the smaller time frame, where I could see us retracing to. So either this breaker, or we sweep this sell side here and bounce. I think that ends up being, it's the 0.5. So I think most likely we'll probably make it down to the 512 region. We also have to be mindful of the 382 514, which is the discount range of this 4-hour fair value gap. This 4-hour fair value gap would be flipping. Oh, yeah. So I actually think I want to change this. So sorry, I forgot about that. So I think what actually happens is we bounce off the 382, which is like 514, because what that allows us to do is test this 4-hour fair value gap as an inverse fair value gap, and then that could be pretty bullish and push us up to this trend line here, which would also be the 0.5 and the 1 extension. So a lot of confluence there. So again, let's see how we open Monday. But either way, would love to see a retracement so that I can grab along, and that would be my strategy personally. I'm not going to short, but I'm just going to look for an opportunity to go long if there's a dip. All right, so SPY, SPX, QQQ. If you continue watching, what we're going to look at next is big tech. Then after big tech would be chips, and that will help us validate some of the things that we were just looking at on these indexes and ETFs. So, all right, so next chapter, next video. However I splice this, we're going to look at big tech. So let's start off with Tesla, because Tesla saw insane moves on Friday, right? It's obviously a very volatile stock. All right, so Tesla, a lot going on Tesla, right? So for a while, I was saying, since maybe October or even before, how bullish this 3-month chart looked. So let's start off on the, let's see, the 6-month. Okay, so 6-month had, give me the 12. All right, 12-month. Yep. So I bet that's what. Man, I had so many. Let me just. So I'll just draw it fresh for you all. All right, so 12-month has this fair value gap. You can see we came back down and tested that fair value gap. Let's also see what the fibs tell us. So at the time, you could see here, bounce off of the 382, which is bullish. All right. And then you can see that there is a 12-month fair value gap. Never mind. That's not going to happen. All right. Let's see. Now 6-month, see if anything different now. 3-month, you can see the 3-month had this imbalance that got filled. Let's continue. So on the monthly, what we could see now off the bat is that there's sell side here. There's sell side here. And we had this buy side level that got swept, right? However, the way that this monthly is opening now makes it look like it wants to continue so far. And we have a monthly fair value gap here. So where do I think we're heading? We draw some fibs. You can see we rejected right off of that 1.618 extension, but I do believe we're going to head to this. My guess is we head to the 650 region over the next few quarters. Let me just, I think I had a fib drawn from here. Whoops, just delete the wrong one. Let's try that again. We almost made it. We made it so close to 500. This one at 504. You can see initially we rejected the 707. Needed to refuel. We had this looked like a inverse head and shoulders look before we continue pushing up. So 750 would be nuts, but anything is possible. Either way, I do think that this does break 500. Is this the one that I did? I just want to make sure. Yeah. So I'm targeting like that 650 region over the coming months. The weekly bulls stepped up. We had this imbalance. They filled it. Daily, you can see really nice volume, filled this gap. Daily, because of the way that Tesla moves, it tends to have a lot of imbalances. But you can see that there's still a lot more to explore. So shorter term, this one's going to be a top watch for me for next week. Let's just mark out these more local levels. This is the daily. All right, so now we know we have buy side there, sell side here. So do we think that we're going to make it to the discount range here? So I would look to see how we react to this 427, even 441-ish level. Let's see, 4 hour. Or we make it up to 786, fill this imbalance. 461. Let's see what I was initially thinking. Yeah. All right. So what so what I think we do is we continue pushing up to at least this buy side level here. Ideally, when we do that, we maybe create a fair value gap, come down, test it, and then continue pushing up towards this golden pocket and imbalance. You can see that there's an order block here, which is where I think we maybe reject. So, because of the way that volume really came in on Friday, this daily candle looks great with some nice volume behind it. That's why I think we see a continuation early next week. And so this one, Tesla's going to be a top watch for me. I do think the local bottom on Tesla is in, but obviously we just have to be mindful of these other levels that are down here. This sell side brings us down to the discount range of this fair value gap, that's the monthly fair value gap. And then you can see that there's a big old daily gap down here. Okay. Same thing. Got it. So I told you, because the way Tesla moves, there's just so many gaps and inefficiencies. So it's a little bit harder to chart, in my opinion. But I love playing this stock. It's a lot of fun to play, especially in options. So, all right. So that's Tesla. Let's make our way to Apple. All right. So, if you've watched my previous videos, you know that I was bearish on Apple. Also, macro-wise, believe that Apple is in UTAD. Doesn't mean it can't keep pushing higher, but I think its days are numbered. I do think it can still put in new all-time highs. However, what you can see here is I drew two paths, maybe like about a week ago. thinking we made it at least to this 382, which also happens to be the golden pocket extension. We have this previous all-time high supply zone that hasn't yet been tested as demand. So I am leaning towards us testing that. And what a reason being is I do believe that money is starting to flow out of big tech and back into chips. And so I think some of these bigger tech names we're going to see some relative weakness compared to others. And then we do, as we push down, we created these imbalances that I think get tested. So weekly was relative high volume. This candle isn't looking like a reversal just yet to me, which is why I think we make it down to this blue. You can see we created Doji on Friday. Again, remember a lot of the stocks were squeezing out Friday. SPY was looking good. QQQ was looking good. But Apple didn't do whole lot of anything. Another reason why I think we can continue pushing down. So I'm looking for a bounce around 237. So that's what I would be looking for before possibly going long. All right, Apple. Let's look at Google. Well, yeah, I don't think there's anything else I want to look at on Apple. Google. Same thing with Google. I've had this blue path drawn out forever. I was thinking we were gonna test this golden pocket. But let me just maybe hide it for now. What it looks like we're doing on Google. So Google has actually a daily fair value gap. So let me just type. All right, daily fair value gap. But we're generating these buy side levels, and then now we have also sell side levels. And we have this gap. This gap, I believe, I'm pretty sure this is like the quantum gap. It gapped up once they talked about how powerful their quantum computer is. I do think that gap gets filled eventually. However, this daily volume has been looking good. So I don't know if we make it down there just yet. I'm going to remove this path because I think things are changing. So could also argue we are in a bullish pennant. So maybe bounce around here for a little bit. But what I would like to see is, again, remember I said that I would like to see a retracement on SPY and QQQ first. So maybe we see a little bit of a retracement, make it down to like 188. And I'll draw some fibs just to kind of see what this looks like. Make it up towards this inefficiency and do something like that. Let's see what these local fibs tell us. Let's hide this. Can also draw it. So what you can see is it rejected around this 1.618 extension. Next macro one is around 220. I'm gonna hide that for now. And then let's see. So I just want to make sure this one makes sense. All right, so what that would do more locally. So yeah, maybe let's see if we get, and you can see that there's an imbalance here now on the 4-hour too. So maybe get a bounce around 188.57. That's where I would look to go long. And then I think this one heads towards at least 196. So this one will be a watch probably later in the week for me. And then Microsoft. So out of all the tech names, Google and Tesla so far look pretty good to me. Microsoft, what you could see is it's in this rising ascending broadening wedge, which is bearish. However, we got another touch of this trend line, bounced off of it so far. Some decent volume. Candle's not necessarily look super bullish to me, but something to be mindful of. I think we can make it at least back to the discount range if you're a bear. So above this 0.5, maybe test this gap. And then I would look to see how we react there. So anywhere between 435 and even this 439 level could possibly, if everything starts really moving, could possibly make it back up to this daily fair value gap in this 707 and then look for rejection. I don't think it's going to make it to the this top trend line again. I could be wrong. But I do believe this is making a large sell model. So Microsoft's another one that I'm pretty bearish on longer term. But short term, I think could see some decent movement. It's not like the top of my list, but just something to be mindful of. So not going to spend too much time on this one. Let's just look at the hourly. So you have this imbalance here. Could be flagging a little bit on the hourly, but yeah, like if we make it down to this 418 region, that would be nice. If you wanted to play along, you can maybe look for a long there. That would give us an imbalance fill. So something to be mindful of. All right, Meta. I haven't looked at Meta in a while, so I added it to the list. This thing has been unbelievable. Let me just hide everything for now, and then I'll bring it back because I don't have a lot drawn on here. Or actually, maybe I'll just draw. Yeah, I'm going to draw fresh. Let me remove all drawings. So what you can see on Meta, just right off the bat, right, is that we saw a nice reaction. There was sell side here, swept the sell side, order block here. Saw a nice reaction there. I bet it was also, it's probably a key fib. Didn't even make it down to the discount range. So premium range, which is bullish. Held the 382 nicely. We didn't have a body close below it and then ripped. The one thing to note though is that volume has been decreasing. So it would be interesting to see do the fibs tell us anything if we drew from. All right, so looks like we're making our way up to this 1.618 extension, this 683 area, 684. Let's see how it reacts there. 3-month also. The interesting thing is 3-month. And also, obviously, with there's been some TikTok news. Doesn't sound like Trump wants to block TikTok anymore, so that could be viewed as bearish for Meta. So let's just kind of see how that plays out. But you have this 3-month fair value gap here. And also, the funny thing is the previous all-time highs are right at the discount range, 50% mark of that fair value gap. So funny how that works out. Okay. Looks like we also have, so that's like 360, 414 region. I'm actually going to add, I just thought about NFLX I want to look at too. 3-month also has, we really zoom in, we have another fair value gap here, and we have imbalances. So I do think this one's going to see weakness soon. Like I said, I think we have a little bit more room to go, but it's starting to look exhausted. You can see that volume decreasing. All right, so that's the 3-month. Let's go monthly now. So you had this imbalance, got filled. Same thing down here. Weekly, no, looks good. So weekly, let's see more locally what we could start targeting. All right, so weekly, last week looked pretty good for Meta actually. So interesting. Another one that didn't do great compared to which I'm going to look at later in the small caps. I'm going to look at Snap. But wow, yeah, I expected it to look a little bit better. You could see this, look at this volume here. Wow, what happened last time we saw something like that? Usually a footprint. So yeah, I do think it does look weak, but I do think it continues to push up. We have this 4-hour imbalance, hourly. swept this buy side level, have a little bit of an order block here that we're rejecting. You have this hourly fair value gap that it rejected initially, and it's bearish. So let's see shorter term what I would like to see. Let's see a retracement. It's holding the 236, could continue up, but since there's an order block here, I think we come down a little bit. Let's see how we react if we make it down to this 599, 600 level. And then I would like to see us start coming into this hourly fair value gap. Again, ideally what happens is on the larger time frame, like what we do is we come up, get a body close above this hourly fair value gap, test it, and then start heading towards this, all these buy side levels up here, and back up into this golden pocket extension, and make it to like 640 plus. So, yep, so what you can see is we had sell side here, came down, swept it, and then pushed up. So, not much of a reason to be bearish just yet. Again, probably a slight pullback and then continue pushing higher this week. And then the other one is Netflix, because I was telling the Discord, I had this really weird dream. It was a few weeks ago. It was literally like, I think early December, and it said, it's time to short Netflix. Really weird, right? And I wish I listened to it, because it's down about 5% since. The reason why I've been waiting on this one, is because similar to Meta, like look at how volume is just like pretty much fallen off a cliff since 2010 to 2013. This move just doesn't seem sustainable. It absolutely blows my mind that we are, at $800 plus. However, I don't think this move probably isn't done just yet. If you look at the 3-month, that candle looks good. It's not really a rejection candle just yet, like what you can see here, like clear top signal there, right? So shorter term, what I'm looking for, it would be interesting to see if it makes it up to this $1,200 region. So what I have called out in other videos is that if you look at especially the weekly, remember the 4 reasons why the market moves. One of those reasons is to generate liquidity. Look what it's doing as it's pushing up. It's generating all this sell side liquidity. So I do think that at some point, and you have relative equal lows here, I do think at some point it makes it down, which would be absolutely insane. Yeah, would be an insane move, but I do think it can take out these relative equal lows, and then maybe bounce around this 134 region. I'm like kind of curious on that would bring us to a 382 around 147. Yeah, that could happen. It would be nuts. I don't know. I just think that this short, once it's ready, could be life changing. I also just hate Netflix personally, but look at the monthly. So monthly looks like a reversal. You also have this monthly fair value gap that we're currently coming down into. So let's just kind of get an idea of where we can maybe retrace to from here. All right. So yeah, I think what I would look for is a retracement to the 842 region. So maybe do something like this. Again, remember I said that I think money's going to flow out of some of these big tech names and into chips. So could do something like that. We do have, I believe that's a daily gap. Yeah, there's a daily gap down here, 736 region. I don't think we make it there just yet, but weekly looks pretty bearish so far. So I would look to see how we react to this 840 region. Daily too, despite despite everything ripping or most everything ripping on Friday, you had a high volume sell off at Netflix. All right. So, and it looks like it's actually building a sell model to me. We're going to now let's see if we continue putting in a series of lower highs. Ideally, like if we really wanted to play this short, ideally what happens is we get a nice sell-off, sweep that liquidity there, come back into that fair value gap that it maybe creates, and then we can look from there. But you can see we have sell side here and then sell side here. So these are the local levels I would be looking out for personally. Okay. So bearish on Netflix. Cool. So that's it. That's all I wanted to look at from big tech. Now we're going to move into chips, starting with NVIDIA, then AMD, and then MU. So on to the next chapter, possibly next video. Okay. All right, let's jump into NVIDIA. All right, so NVIDIA looks really solid to me. If you've watched any of my videos, this has been my target. I believe, depending on how you draw the fibs, let me, I'll redraw them. I thought I had them here. All right, so what ended up happening is that everyone and their mother was calling for a head and shoulders here. I felt like that was unlikely to play out for a couple of reasons. Number one, we had this order block down here that I figured would catch us. And then also on top of that, we had this sell side level that you could see was very important because what it did is it pushed us up to all-time highs. And then what ended up happening is we swept that area, we swept that liquidity, and have been pushing up ever since. It created this imbalance here on the daily, came back, tested that imbalance, and it's also, I believe, an hourly order block, and then pushed up. So now what we have here again, after it had a really great Friday, and that Friday candle looks like continuation, which is why I have us coming up to take out this buy side level here around 146.57 first, before possibly retracing and at least testing this gap. What that would bring us to, if we make it up here to the golden pocket, doesn't necessarily need to happen. I think we at least make it to 140 to that discount range before continuing to push up, but we'll just play this. We'll take a look to see how this one plays out. You also have this daily bearish fair value gap here, right? That I would love for us to at least, you can see this red line 141 turn into an inverse fair value gap. Overall, I do believe, I believe that NVIDIA is in macro distribution. It's just a matter of seeing if we put in UTAD or not. I think we do, and I think we get to this red box has been my price target for months now. Also, if we sweep this buy side level, that's a change of character, and we're most likely going to continue to push higher from there. If we draw more local fib extensions, assuming this is the bottom here, what that gets us to is that 1.618 gets us to 158, which falls within my price range, my ultimate all-time high final price target. So let's see if we can make it up to that 158 range. AMD, I believe, is in accumulation. It obviously had a rough year compared to NVIDIA, but I think this year will be AMD's year. What you could see is it's been in this descending channel for a very long time, started back in March 2024, and we've kind of just been chopping around, accumulating in this channel. What I wanted to see, if you watched any of my previous videos, is we have these relative equal lows down in this 116 region. what I wanted to see, I believe I hit the path, or maybe I deleted it now. I guess I deleted it. What I wanted to see was to see us sweep this level. And so here's my thesis right now. So far, it looks bullish. I don't think this blue path happens. If we go to the 4 hours so that I can go into extended hours, you can see that we did sweep this level. It was just in extended hours. I really wanted to see it happen during regular trading hours. Guess it's fine that it didn't. Either way, I think that was a buy of a lifetime. Buying down at 118, I think if you did that, you're going to be very happy this year. Still not too late to get in. I like this one for commons if you want to buy the stock. Something to be mindful of is that we have this bearish daily fair value gap up here. And I believe on the 4 hours relative equal highs. So I think we're heading towards this region. I want to see how we react here. Ideally, what ends up happening again is that we get a body close above this daily fair value gap, turn it into an inverse fair value gap, and then we'll be bullish from there. We're going to take out this buy side level at 132 and start heading up towards this daily gap, I believe. And I do think that this one's going to see new all-time highs. But over the next year or so, we just need to be patient. What I drew on this blue path, the reason why I drew this is because I wanted to see if maybe we reject this daily fair value gap after taking out these relative equal highs and then make our way down into that level I wanted to see us sweep during regular trading hours. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the red path is more likely. You can see weekly came down, touched this imbalance, and then pushed off. We're currently at this local golden pocket extension. But that daily candle, again, just like NVDA, looks like continuation to me. Again, if you've watched this video up until now, you know that I said that I think what's happening is that money's rotating back into chips. If you looked at some of those big tech names, you could see we saw weakness while chips saw strength. You could also see that it has generated these buy side levels probably more clearly on the hourly that we're going to start taking out. All right, so even if we see a small pullback on Monday at open, that's fine. That might just be an opportunity to jump long. AMD is another one that's top of the watch list for me. So we're going to start, I believe, heading towards this trend line in this buy side around 150 over the next couple weeks. So just something to be mindful of. And then we had previous highs here that I thought were going to catch us, didn't end up catching us. And we have this weekly fair value gap. So I'd love to see us start heading towards this gap and this weekly fair value gap. Okay. So fibs, if you look at the fib retracement drawn from the top here on December 2nd to the bottom here on December 16th, you can also kind of get an idea of where the golden pocket is. So just be mindful of that if you are long. That's where I would look to maybe scale out of most of my position and let the runners run. So, all right, MU is the final chip I wanted to take a look at. This was just some helpful. Let me just remove everything. What I was telling the Discord to look out for a few weeks ago. All right, so MU looks interesting. Let's look at the 3-month. Actually, let's start fresh on this one. All right. What you can see here is that MU had previous highs, this buy side level that got swept. Body closed below it on the 12-month chart. And then you also obviously have sell side down here. I'm not even gonna, it's $1.60, whatever. Let's look at, see if these fibs tell us any story. Wow, look at that. So MU rejected the 1.618 to the penny, it looks like, on the 12-month chart. Let's see if we notice anything else. All right, so we had this fair value gap that got tested and we ended up ripping off of on the 12-month chart. All right, let's go to 6-month. Any story here? Okay, we have a 6-month fair value gap there that will mark. We also have one here and here and here. All right, so let's just mark some of these real quick. So first one was that 6-month here. We have, let's just do this one. Okay. All right, so just something to be mindful of. Let's also just look at, let's lock this and then hide it. Let's see if fibs tell us a story, the fib retracements. All right, so that 382 brings us down to this 6-month fair value gap around $27, which is also an order block from previous all-time highs back in 95. Wow, that's crazy. Let me go to 3-month. 3-month, what the thing is, volume was looking pretty good up till 2018, and it looks like we're starting to stall a little bit. Also, similar to Netflix, if you remember, it generated all this sell side. You also have relative equal lows there. All right, so just things to be mindful of. We're still trying to build a thesis here, and we're below. So this is also, it should have been support, but now it's going to test it as, most likely test it as resistance, which is interesting. Right at that 98, like 50 level. Let's see if that, let's go to the monthly. All right, 3 months. So 3 months, same thing, fair value gap there. We already have that mark on 6 month. You could also see that there was a monthly fair value gap here that it kept rejecting, which is bearish. High volume rejection there. You had this weekly imbalance that got filled. Same thing here. Created a fair value gap on the weekly here, but swept this sell side here. So shorter term, what I would look for is maybe a push up. I don't see much of a reason to be bullish on this one compared to NVIDIA and AMD personally. So push up to maybe this 382, could even make it to 96 region, and then make its way down to this 6-month fair value gap around 78. That's what I would look for. I don't like this name. This name is probably not something that I'm going to play personally. If you wanted to be bullish, what you would want to see is for it to push up from here, make it through that resistance now, retest, and then do something like that. Maybe it makes it back up into this monthly fair value gap and makes it into the discount range of it around 118. Even maybe like 122, but I don't know. I'd rather play AMD and NVIDIA personally. All right, so that's all I wanted to look at chips wise. And now we're going to make it over to small caps. And so next chapter is small caps, or next video, again, however I splice this. We'll start off with IWM, get some sort of idea of how IWM looks, and then there are quite a few tickers that I've received requests on that we're going to go through. All right, let's jump into the IWM chart. If I'm going to be honest, I got beat up a little bit over the past few weeks trying to long this one, but if you haven't watched my videos before, you should know The reason why I'm bullish on IWM is because I believe it's in SOS of this macro accumulation that has been happening since 2022. My ultimate price target is up in this box. First would be this 1.618, 262. But I do think it could make it up to the $300 range, especially if this first quarter or two ends up being as bullish for small caps as I think it's going to be. So let's just see. Let's jump in. So if we drill down a little bit further, and actually let me go, before we even do that, let me just go to a different chart layout just to kind of do what we did on some of the others. Like, let's just look at 12-month first. Okay, 12-month has an imbalance down there. Nothing really telling except for that is interesting. You have relative equal highs up here. So we'll start off on this chart and then we'll go back to the other one. Relative equal highs on the 12-month. All right, let's look at, which is around that 245 region. See 6-month, anything telling? Kind of looks like a V-shaped recovery. We had a fair value gap here that held. Well, pretty much held. It went a little bit below, but this is where the accumulation really started. Caught this breaker here. And then, all right, let's go to, oh, and actually, that's interesting. 6-month has a bearish fair value gap here. It's just now we're way above it. So I don't think we're going to, let's see if we ended up, no. I don't know if we're going to test that now at this point. That would kind of go against my initial thesis, but I guess something to be on the lookout for, right? And let's see. What I like here is that swept that sell side level and continued pushing up with some nice volume. Do you have the monthly fair value gap here as well to be mindful of? Let's just look to see what fibs tell us. That would bring so that is interesting. That would bring us to the 382 here, but we are holding the 236 so far. So so what ended up happening is we bounced off of the 382, bounced off of this fair value gap. Yeah, I don't think we can come back down there. I think it looks good. I mean, we eventually will, but not right now. I like that we're holding the 236 so far. Let's look at the weekly now. So weekly, right off the bat, what we could see is there's actually 2 weekly fair value gaps above. Most likely we'll head towards the second, but let's just mark these. Why do I keep doing that? So you had some, so we swept liquidity here, sell side right here, right? You had some really nice volume come in on the weekly, and that candle looks pretty good. So let's see if we can see what daily is showing us. Yeah, I really like that it came down, swept this liquidity again, and now we're getting ready to push. Let's just see what the local fibs will tell us. So in order to make it for bears back into the discount range, you have to overtake this first fair value gap, get it to at least 231. And you have this level here around 228.58, which was previous highs. You have this imbalance that it's testing, left an imbalance here on the 4-hour. And you have this local buy side level here, or internal. So let's just mark some of these levels. Okay, so let's see. I think what I would like to see early next week or Monday, retracement from here down to the 0.5, test that imbalance, and then start heading towards this buy side level. So if we make it down to that 222 region, that's where I would look to go long personally. I do think over the coming weeks, we make it back above this weekly fair value gap and start testing this weekly fair value gap up into like that 236, 237 range. And what you could also see again, generated these buy side levels that I think we're going to take out and start heading to all-time highs over the next month or so. So I guess the only thing I don't like on the 4 hours, you could see the selling volume. You had some really high selling volume here. Obviously, December was bearish just overall. So I'd like to see us start getting out of this channel and start pushing up with some nice bullish volume. So let's see if anything is different on my original IWM chart. All right, so on my original IWM chart, yeah, I did think that we were going to come down to that level and maybe bounce at this sell side level around 214.50. And then again, start pushing up towards these weekly fair value gaps. It's still not off the table, but with the way that last week looked, I don't think that that's going to happen right now. As of right now, I look for a long around 222. Okay, so that's IWM. What's next? Hey, what should we look at? All right, I got a request to look at GAMB, gambling.com, you degenerates. I looked at this I think about a week ago, and this was my initial thoughts on what would happen. Looks pretty decent so far. Still interested. So let's just zoom out a little bit. Same thing. Let's just go to, it's just easier to do this, right? It's cleaner. But I don't always like to just remove my work. So 12-month. Let's look at 12-month first. Man, look at that. Look at that bullish volume. This nothing really telling except for that volume looks good. 6 month. So 6 months so far appears to be putting in a 6 month fair value gap. Still nothing really too telling there just yet. 3 month, same thing. 3 month possibly putting in a fair value gap, which I guess let's just take a look at. So the interesting thing is that if they wanted to bring this back into the discount range before continuing to go long, that would also prevent a fair value gap from being created. So we could see it dip down to the $11 region. With the way that this volume is ramping up, I don't think that's likely yet. But just, something to be mindful of. Okay, so now we drill down even further. What we could see, now let's start marking levels, right? So we have buy side up here at all-time highs, around $17. And then you also had this buy side level here. Sorry, can't get rid of this cough. Buy side level here that we ended up sweeping. So, and then what else do we have? We have a bearish monthly fair value gap here. Okay, so before I even give my thoughts. Yep, and so on the weekly, we have this imbalance. You have quarter point, heartbreaker. Yeah, so also on the weekly, if we go back here, what you could see is this was also a fair value gap, a bearish fair value gap that came up, tested, and rejected. And let's see what happens if we extend this all the way out. So we ended up pushing through it, and now we're actually testing it. So just something to be mindful of. We could catch here, however, I don't think we will, which is also the golden pocket, the local golden pocket. All right, so retracement, possible retracement down into like this 13, we'll just say 1370 range, could also come down to this 1350 range, which is the 707. Or if we want to make it down to the discount range of this older weekly fair value gap, we would get down to this 1323 region. All totally fine. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'll just move this over here. What I think is most likely to happen, though, since we swept this buy side level, fell short of the all-time high buy side level, volume, obviously volume increased, pushed up here, and then now sellers are coming in. I think it's likely, you can also see this 1346 level that I called out, is also the more macro 236. I think it's likely we make it down to $12, test this fair value gap as an inverse fair value gap, and then possibly launch to all-time highs. There's no reason, in my opinion, right now to be bearish long-term on this stock. I like this one a lot. I just think that it needs to retrace a little bit before going to all-time highs. So again, could go as low as $11, could even go as low as $10, and I would still be fine. I really wouldn't want to see it lose. I wouldn't want to see it lose the 786 and sweep this sell side down here. I want to see it hold this premium range ideally. But even if it fell down to this golden pocket, even down to the 786, that's still fine. I know it's not what you would want to see. But you could also argue that we have like this cup and handle type of action. And if that's the case, then we kind of want to hold this 382 region, and then launch. Again, bullish on it. No reason not to be bullish. We looked at Meta before, if you watched the other earlier, but gonna look at Snap now. What the heck? Let's look at Snap back on this chart. Let's actually, before we even do that, how does that line up with what I initially thought was going to happen when I looked last week? Oh yeah, and so we have this daily gap as well. Yeah, so I was thinking we at least make it down to 1350. So anywhere 1350 would be extremely bullish if we keep ripping from there. But again, could make it down to $11 and still be bullish. Let's look at Snap. Snap had a day on Friday, huh? All right, so let's do what we've been doing. Let's go back to this one. We'll just let's delete all these crazy drawings, shall we? Let's look at the 12-month first. Again, looking at 12-month to start just because this is the beginning of a new year. So you can see Snap closed last year down. That's insane that all-time highs are at $83. That's absolutely insane to me. What you could also see right off the bat is that we have 12-month fair value gap above. And this is the first year when public. So this is a key region to pay attention to as well. All right, let's go from there. Let's go to the 6 month. Also a 6 month fair value gap, no surprise. Came up, rejected. So kind of leaning bearish on the larger time frame so far. You could also look at this bearish volume, and I don't know if it's even worth we can mark off all-time low sell side here. I have sell side here. But this sell side was generated. So we had sell side here. We swept it and pushed up. Saw some decent volume. These candles are a little wonky. 3 month, bet this looks like you had this monthly fair value gap here that it's also rejecting. You have a monthly fair value gap here. And then you have a monthly fair value gap up here as well. So just things to be mindful of before we start coming up with a piece. Do I keep doing that? I wish if you pressed enter, whatever. So looks like it's accumulating here. Yeah. Do we think that, and then you have relative equal lows. Okay. And then as we get more local, buy side, we had a weekly fair value gap here that we are rejecting. Honestly, not going the way that I expected it to so far. Expected to be bullish. So you can see here, we had a weekly fair value gap rejected. Created a weekly fair value gap here, fell right through. Now another weekly fair value gap, had an imbalance, got filled, rejecting this weekly fair value gap so far. Let's see. And then you also have relative equal highs up here. So if we draw fibs from here to here, we also rejected right at the golden pocket. Weekly candle is engulfing, looks good. Volume's a little bit on the lower side though. Daily. Okay, so daily. Okay. Daily imbalance here and a gap here. Had an imbalance, got filled. Imbalance that got filled. Daily volume is pretty good. Candle looks pretty good. You have this level here. 4 hour looks like it wants to continue. And then you have these other levels here. Yeah. Okay, so putting in higher lows, but lower highs. What I'm trying to determine is if, all right, so I'm leaning bearish a little bit longer term, which coincidentally probably lines up with the TikTok stuff that's about to go down. I believe Trump's no longer wants to block TikTok. And there's supposed to be some sort of decision soon. However, shorter term, looks like it at least wants to take out this buy side level around 1216. Yeah, so maybe something like this. Continue pushing up to this buy side level, reject around that 707, and start heading down. Reason why I'm leaning more bearish again is because like all the larger time frames didn't look too great to me, and then so far what looks like is happening is it made its way back into the discount range for bears. We do have these relative equal highs that we need to be mindful of. I think there's also daily gaps above. Yeah, there's this daily gap above that we should also, this is from earnings. There's a few gaps up there. So doesn't mean that we want to eventually start heading up there. Again, we have these relative equal highs, but just what I'm looking at so far is just, it looks like, well, let's try one more thing. Held the 786. Man, held the 786. Yeah, so I think that it's accumulating. I think what's going to happen is it's going to take out these relative equal lows first and then start heading up to maybe SOS. On the weekly time frame, what it appears to me is we're rejecting this weekly fair value gap, come down again. So short term, leaning a little bit more bullish for early next week maybe, and then we could see a possible decline. What I would like to see to be bullish on it is for volume to really start coming in for bulls. Again, it's declining, but I would like for it to, like I've been saying for a lot of these other tickers, is get a body close above this bearish fair value gap, test it, and then if that happens, what I would at least look to do on this retest of this fair value gap is then target those relative equal highs above. So look for $17 plus. So Let's see shorter term again, if we can get that upside followed by a retracement down into that gap and possibly test this imbalance and see, let's just see how it reacts here. If we kind of just push right through, then that's when I would look for us to go lower before pushing up higher. I do believe that it's being accumulated though. All right, so QUBT. Oh, let me go back to, let's save, and then let's go back to QUBT is a top watch for me. I've played it multiple times, both calls and commons. What you can see we have these buy side levels. We just swept this buy side level. I'll keep it there just for when we drill down lower. And we actually have relative equal lows here that we need to watch out for. Down in that 30% range. It's insane. So we could see here is it generated all this buy side, took out that buy side. Then let's just mark this. That is absolutely insane to me. I think there was a reverse split recently, so they didn't get delisted. What I liked most about this one is that it generated all this buy side, and then you had some serious volume come in on the monthly. What you can see now is we swept this buy side level and have been seeing a low volume consolidation, which makes me, this is a top watch for this week for me, makes me believe that we are getting ready to launch to head towards this next buy side level. And I believe if I drew fibs, let's draw even just local fib extension. Let me just see, try from here to, yeah. So I think at minimum, it retests this golden pocket extension. But I've been telling my Discord group, I've been targeting this region if you give yourself enough time. But this is definitely an actively squeezing stock. It's just seeing some healthy consolidation now before a possible markup again. Now, if we push down below this pennant and go below this imbalance, then I would reevaluate, and I honestly would probably be done with this one for a while. But I think this one still has a ton of potential. Let's do, so this one's my monster in the making. I wasn't going to record a video about this. This one I've been reserving for my Discord, but, oops, GEVO, same thing. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that in the summer I was bullish on Affirm. This has a very similar look to Affirm to me. My Affirm calls ended up going like 2,000%. I was also in commons. Generated all this buy side. Like, look at this. Had a double bottom, and then on the monthly, what I want to see. So this I believe is accumulating, and this is SOS, and we're now getting ready to explode out of SOS. Monthly looks great. Weekly, what I want to see, you can see weekly volume is starting to ramp up. We're at least going to take out this buy side level here, around 344, and head towards this golden pocket. I actually have, and a lot of people on my Discord have $5 calls for May. Not financial advice, just letting you know what we're in. And I'm also building a commons position. I do think that it's going to head up towards this 3-month fair value gap in this buy side level. Also, if we hide this, but let's draw some extensions, and then we'll draw some retracements just to see how that lines up. You could also see that that ends up being the 1.618 extension, which I like, at 2570 range. Again, we're trading at 280, so that would be absolutely insane moves. But I think this one can get squeezy. And this one's a longer term hold for me as well. I don't know the time frame on when that's going to happen or if it's going to happen, but just something that I'm observing. And then let's just look to see. This is probably also another one that's been a POS and probably has had reverse splits. I haven't looked too closely into it. But yeah, so I would be macro wise, I would target at least this 236, 945 region. But like it just makes sense. Like, why generate all this buy side liquidity not to make it to at least this buy side level at 1571? Again, I think it will test this 3-month fair value gap. So just something to be mindful of. I really would like to see volume really start picking up on the monthly though, to validate that thesis. Okay, let's go to. All right, so should we go to some memes? Jimmy, let's go to a fresh chart, right? GME. I am super long GME. I have been for a while. You got to believe in Roaring Kitty, right? But I just think this chart looks great. 3-month chart created this fair value gap, came down into the discount range of that fair value gap, and launched afterwards with some really nice volume. It was accumulating this whole way, and I believe we are in SOS now. And what happens after SOS? You get a huge explosion. So I am targeting this one extension, this 130. Could make it all the way up to this 1.618 on this move. So in like the perfect scenario, what I would love to see for the mega bulls, obviously this one is unique. Where the heck is that? All right. I would love to see, we'll bust through this. This is from January 2021 buy side level. That is big. Most likely it's not going to be easy to get through that. So we either do something like, probably gonna, think something like this. Because let's see what that hypothetically would be. Yeah. So that would hypothetically be the 236, which would be super bullish. Otherwise, if we make it up to here, this is my other scenario. Either way, very bullish. We make it up to this 205 region on this next push, come down to like the 382, and then go. Either way, I think this one goes to 200 plus this year. Let's see. So obviously with the memes, it's really hard to figure out timing, but I'm loaded and ready to go on this one. Same thing for KOSS. I don't see a lot of people talking about KOSS, but if you remember the like what I mentioned, the firm just looked at GEVO. Very similar look, except this one looks even better because you have some really nice volume coming in. This is from July. So it looks like what it appears that so far, if you believe in the whole meme basket thing, is that KOSS goes after GME. So what I'm hoping to do is roll some profits into KOSS. I already have a fairly large position of KOSS, but what you could also see is the monthly looks like it's rounding out. The only thing I don't like is that we have this monthly fair value gap that has, I guess it was never mind. It was tested. It probably doesn't need to be tested again, but just something to be mindful of. I want to start seeing volume come in relatively soon, but it does look like it's accumulating. It's just been super low volume. We're making higher lows, all right? So if we're not in SOS yet on this one. So if we do, it is possible to see a spring come back into this monthly fair value gap and then launch. So just something to watch out for. But long term, I am bullish on this one. What you can see is we had this buy side level that got rejected. We had this local sell side. We haven't swept anything yet. So And you can see volume is relatively low. Volume on Friday was relatively low. So I do think we push lower. At minimum, take out this sell side level down here at 713, and then possibly this 681 here. Similar to ASTS was doing that as well. So ASTS was making higher lows, and then it needed to sweep lower liquidity to get this big push up on Friday. So ASTS is another one that's in accumulation and getting ready to launch, but I'm going to wait until we get I've been burned trying to time calls on this one. I'm going to wait until we see some strength, get into that SOS phase, and then I'll get calls. But all right, I've never looked at this one, but I've received a request for it. CRNC. Oh, now I see why I received a request. Let's first look at the 12-month. And let me do this one in. All right. Wow, maybe my Discord member found another monster in the making. Look at that. All right. CRNC. I have no idea what this company is, what they do. Let's look at the 12-month first. All right. So 12-month, you have all-time high buy side around 141. And then you have all-time low sell side at 230. Wow, that's insane. What a move. You also have a fair value gap. What am I doing? Sorry, I am like, what am I? If I end up having this video be all in one, I'm like feeling lightheaded. I'm at 2 hours and 20 minutes. Okay, let's just keep pushing, shall we? I'm getting tired though. All right, so we have this 12-month fair value gap. Let me just draw fibs from here to here. Look at that. Brings us up to the golden pocket. 707 could be interesting. $43 range. Cool. Let's just lock that. We'll hide it for now. Let's just keep drilling down. Let's look at the 6-month chart. Wow. 6-month looks like a beauty. Look at that. Swept sell side. Pushed up with some really nice volume. 3-month. Yeah, volume looks good. This is the first buy side level that we want to be mindful of on the 3-month chart, around 36.91. We're currently trading at 19.33, and that 3-month candle looks good with volume. You also had all right, so this is what I would look at. You have a 3-month fair value gap here, a bearish one that's flipping. So we have 3-month. All right. So this is exactly what I like to see. You have a body close so far above the 3-month fair value gap. We're gonna drill down further, but if you've watched the whole video so far, what I would like to see now is for a retest of this 3-month fair value gap. And that would give us a long entry towards this buy side, right? But let's continue drilling down further just to kind of see. Well, look at that monthly volume. So that might not even happen until we take out this buy side. This monthly volume is pretty insane. Man, I'm excited. Weekly, we have a weekly fair value gap we need to be mindful of. You have a weekly fair value gap here as well. You have a weekly buy side level here. So it looks like it's going to at least 2165 very soon. Let's see what these fibs will tell us as well. Blew right past the 1.618, might make it up to this $25 range, and then maybe we'll get this retracement. Could even get this retracement into. See, let's just play pretend for a minute. Let's see if we make it up there. So yeah, what I ideally would like to see is we continue to push here, retest, and then go. Oops, what the heck? Let me redo that. Come down to $14 and then go. What might end up happening is we just blow right past here then have a bigger, deeper retracement like that. I don't see, like, when you see daily volume like that, it's probably going to have a big gap up on Monday. But chasing calls, it could still pay. It's hard to ignore daily volume like that with that daily candle and not expect a huge continuation. So definitely a top watch. All right, so what you can see on the hourly, right, is that volume is actually starting to come down. So even if we wanted to look at some local fibs, yeah, that would be great actually. If we can get retracement to this 382, this 1380 region, that could give us a great long entry. Let's see if that happens. That's also, you can see an hourly fair value gap. So that would be my preference. My preference would be for a retracement down to like that $13.80, $14 range. See how we react there, then go long. All right, nice one. This person who put this on my radar in the Discord also put GEVO on my radar, and both are just like monsters in the making. That makes me really excited. Okay. Let's go to, I got a request for SOUN. SoundHound. Let's just start at the 12-month. What a chart. All right, 12-month. Looks like we're putting in a 12-month fair value gap so far, unless we make it back down to that 519 region. Probably unlikely with how that volume is looking so far. 6-month, same thing. But look at this volume, looking good, but nothing that really tells us much. Same thing on the 3-month. So that looked great. So look, you had looks like a rounded bottom, came up, had a lower volume retracement, and then boom, yeah, this one looks great. Let's just get an idea, start getting an idea from a fib standpoint. So monthly has, I'm not going to draw those 3-month or 6-month fair value gaps just yet, but you do have a monthly here. You had, look at this. So you had accumulation, well, it looks like SOS, and now boom, rounded bottom, explosion. So golden pocket, if we saw a retracement after taking out these all-time high buy-side levels, I would look to see how we react at this 382 personally, but could make it back down into this discount range. So ideally we do this. That would be my ideal scenario. We make it back down to this 860 range. Might not happen. You also have a weekly fair value gap here. You have a weekly imbalance. So this is one I don't feel comfortable. So far, I don't feel comfortable going long just yet, but could be a top watch. You also have a weekly fair value gap here. And then weekly imbalance here that got tested. Okay, cool. So if I wanted to remain super, super bullish short term, what we would actually see is a retracement back into this weekly fair value gap and bounce around that 236, which I like how that weekly, or that 236 falls within the discount range of that weekly fair value gap. So that's actually my most likely scenario, especially with seeing how this volume is. I don't think this blue path happens. I think red happens. And then we'll head to new all-time highs from here. Let's just get an idea. Let me look at daily. Yeah, daily looks like it still wants lower. Yeah, I like that. I think $16 range is where I would look to grab along. Let's just see what if the fib extensions tell us anything too. Let's start here, but ideally we draw a bigger one. So we rejected around that 2.618. Golden pocket extension brings us to the 0.5, so we can't ignore that. We just have to have that in the back of our minds. Again, with just the way that volume has been going, I don't think that happens. Let's see this one. Nope, already over that one. Just seeing if there's anything else to take note of target-wise. Yeah, let's see if we can get to this 2685 range. Possibly more. All right. SOUN looks good. Just need to be a little bit more patient with that one. Probably on the watch list for maybe end of this week, maybe next week. RTGI. I'm not RTG. I probably didn't write that down correctly. Maybe it's RGTI. Oh, has to be this one. All right, RGTI. What the heck is going on here? What a monster move. Okay, that's it's absolutely insane. So, creating a 12-month fair value gap so far. Obviously, we can't draw that out yet. Same with the 6-month. That volume is just absurd. 3-month. Yeah, so we took out buy side, obviously. You have sell side down here. Doesn't really matter. Nice accumulation with an absolute rip. You have a monthly imbalance here. So something just in the very long future, most likely to pay attention to or just be mindful of. Yeah. And then you also have, so you have a monthly. We'll draw this one. Obviously, we can't draw the next one because the month's not over yet. But you have a monthly fair value gap down here as well. And so if it ever came back to this region, that's where I would look to go long. But volume looks really good here. You have a weekly fair value gap here that got tested and we bounced off of, and you have a weekly imbalance here that got tested and bounced off of as well. All right, sorry. Oh, man, I thought I was on the weekly. So that was the daily weekly fair value gap here. Sorry about that. And then you have this weekly imbalance. I just mark these because there's a chance that it comes down here. And if it does, you can see volume starting to come down. Daily looks a little exhausted. Let's just draw some fibs to see if we can look for a long entry. Yeah, so yeah, this one's pretty easy. What I would look for to go long is for a retracement to this 382, back into this weekly fair value gap, and then go. Could see a deeper retracement down to the golden pocket or even 0.5. I would like to see golden pocket personally. But you just want to see how it reacts to these levels. If it gets a strong bounce off of this 382, that's where I would look to go long. Could get a retracement down to like this $10 range. But let's just see where we think it's going. So if we draw, sorry, I'm just trying to see how do I want to draw this? Because this most likely, you have another weekly imbalance here. Yeah, let me just draw from here to here to here. All right, so yeah, see how this also brings it down to the golden pocket extension. Kind of blew past the 1, but I think what I would be targeting is this 1.618, possibly this 2.618. So I would look for at least $25 personally. All right, RGTI. Okay, another meme is NKLA. Looks super interesting. Obviously a piece of shit. However, 6-month has this fair value gap up here. Would be interesting if we can make it up there. Let's see, up to like this 0.5, 1092 region, $11 region. The weekly is what picks my interest. So very strong weekly volume coming in. We have all these buy side levels on the daily. Looks like a rounded bottom. We did create two imbalances just to be mindful of. Oh, actually, yeah, so what happened is we bounced off of this imbalance. I'm going to remove this one, right? And so, what is that looking at? Anyways, daily looks like it's going to continue at least to this $1.75 range before a possible pullback. Let's just see. Hourly, you have a fair value gap here. Okay. Now let's just see what the fibs look like. Yeah, so let's see if we make it down to $1.50. could make it down to this golden pocket, which would test this imbalance of $1.37 range. So yeah, I think that's what I want to see, something like that, before heading to not new highs, but taking out some of these other buy side levels. I do think that if this volume keeps up, I think we can go break $2 and make it to this daily fair value gap around 256. That would see if we can make it up to at least this golden pocket, maybe the 786 around 263. I think it's unlikely it goes any higher than that, but let's see. All right, let's do Square. Square's been one that has been on my watch list for a long time. Reason why I wanted to just look at it again is because I did have us possibly dipping lower, but Friday saw some interesting price action, and we have a change of character here. So we had a daily close above this previous high buy side level. So I think it's time to start looking for a long entry again. I believe this one is in SOS of macro accumulation, and I'm targeting this weekly fair value gap up here in 110 region, but ultimately I think we make it to this 1.618, 133 range, and possibly even take out this buy side level around 150. So yeah, this one looks really good to me. Weekly, you can see, has been flagging, and I like that we closed above last week's candle. So yeah, what I would look for, we obviously created this gap now, so it'd be interesting to see if we test that gap. Let's also just look at, I would love for us to flip this daily fair value gap here, but let's first see, maybe come down to, yeah, we might just come down to this 90.77 if we don't gap up on Monday and keep pushing. We have this fair value gap here to be mindful of, but man, this, and then you have some imbalances up here. So either way, this is going close to $100 soon. But I really like Square. Same thing for PayPal, I think. PayPal, same thing, rounded bottom, has been accumulating. I believe in SOS now. And let's just look at the weekly. Yeah, so you're starting to see the weekly candle looks good. Some volume starting to come in. Friday looked pretty solid. Nothing like too extraordinary. But what I'm waiting for on this one is to flip this bearish daily fair value gap into an inverse fair value gap. And then the reason why I like PayPal a lot is it generated so much buy side liquidity, and you have this weekly imbalance that happens to be at this 2.618 extension around 110. So ideally, if you give yourself time, that would be my initial target. Maybe leave some runners to see if we take out this other buy side level, which happens to be at the bottom of this 3-month fair value gap. Another one that I believe is in macro accumulation and could get pretty nutty soon. And the last one for now is OKLO. This one I have some regrets not getting into. I was on the fence on what was happening here. I wasn't sure if it was distributing after taking out all-time highs. What I do like is that it was holding this supply zone and tested as demand, came down, tested this trend line of this wedge, and then now took out this buy side level and had a close above this buy side level. So now you have these levels to look out for. This is one that I like long term. I think nuclear is the future. So what I would like to see now, I had a few members of the Discord be like, no, we missed it. And I have others who are already in it. Good for them. But I told them, don't worry. This is what I wanted to see first. I wanted some validation first. And so I do think this one makes new all-time highs, but now we just look for our entry, right? So we have this fair value gap to be mindful of. You have this so let's do this. it kept rejecting that fair value gap, which is why I didn't get in. And I was trying to be smart about my entry here. But you have this 4-hour fair value gap now that was bearish. And so what I would like to see is for us, maybe we'll take out the rest of these buy side levels. That's still okay. Usually you see a retracement after that. So maybe come down to this $25 range and then we can go. So there's nothing, I don't want to be early. Nothing wrong with getting some validation that this thing's ready to go bonkers again. But let's look and see if we can be smart about our entry. And let's just, again, hypothetically, let's see what those, so that would bring us to a 382 if we make it up here first. So yeah, OKLO is, I'm not going to chase this one. I'm going to be patient with it, wait for a great entry. And, but this one could be a great one long-term if you're patient. So, I mentioned that I was also going to look at crypto stocks and some altcoins. I'm going to create a separate video for that one. It's obviously going to get trimmed down with editing, but I've already been talking for almost 3 hours and I'm pretty exhausted. So I just need to take a break. Maybe I'll look at some of these coins later on tonight and create a separate video. But thank you all so much for watching. Again, I'm going to break these up into chapters or even mini videos for you to digest, but I really appreciate your support. Please, please, please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. I'm happy to have a debate, but overall, I'm feeling really good about what this quarter is going to bring, especially for these small caps that are already starting to see some serious volume. But thank you. I appreciate you all and have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a fantastic week and make a ton of money. Thank you.